All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Atma Open Exhibition 2023. Yay! With our motion today, this House believes that the feminist movement should actively reject body positivity in favor of body neutrality. We're going to directly jump into the Prime Minister, but before that, quick reminder, first of all, don't forget to start your own timer. We'll also have our own timer, however, it will be better if you have your own timer. And second of all, don't forget to mention your POI preference before you start your speech. So without any further ado, I would like to call upon the Prime Minister. For Prime Minister, floor is yours. Here.
Okay, before I start, is my audio audible?
Yep, you're visible and audible.
Okay, thank you. POI preference through chat. What else? Okay. Hold on. Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first of all, I would like to explain that as this house believes that the feminist movement should actively reject body positivity. Now, we believe that body neutrality is much more better in terms of body positivity because it centers and focuses on the body appreciation and respects what the body functions as in, rather than only focusing on the exterior and only focusing on the aesthetics, right? So we believe that the status quo right now, it truly shows that people who are favoring body positivity, it's actually forcing affirmation towards women and men compared to neutrality, where we actually accept all kinds of bodies because it is human, right? Rather than when we're only trying to receive or attract certain comments because we want to believe that body positivity is better because of this certain affirmation. It's much more better to have a neutral point of view because we believe this will actually be beneficial for all women and men, which is the interest of actors in this motion. People who are struggling to accept on how they look, in which pushing the idea of body neutrality is much more is less harmful than pushing the idea to have body positivity. And that's what we want to prove, because we believe that actively rejecting body positivity will be beneficial to all. And second of all, it aligns with the interests of the feminist movement much more better. And that is what the opponent have to answer. Why do you believe that prioritizing body positivity can actually bring benefit, right? Which we already know that in status quo right now, it is actually counterproductive. First, I would like to go into my first argument, where we're actually challenging the present day beauty, right? Body neutrality is focusing on the appreciation that your organs are there, that your organs are functioning really well, that each part of your body has a function, and that it is a fact that each body is unique. Therefore, there is no point in comparing your own body to other people's bodies, right? Once you have this idea, this strong foundation that you accept your own body and you believe that you are okay in your own skin, you will actually you're not going to be easily swayed by trends that are constantly changing, right? Like for example, we know that we can see from pop songs, even from years before and even now, that there are pop songs where people are actively shaming skinny bodies because the trend right now is to reaffirm the idea that curvy bodies are much more better or sexier, right? But however, this is very counterproductive because in these songs, they're actively shaming skinny bodies, which are totally different in the beauty standards right now. So this is very counterproductive because as a feminist movement, you don't want to pick sides. You want to help all people who are struggling, which those who are skinny, those who are curvy, those who are in between, right? We are the interest of feminist movement is that you want to make everyone to believe that all bodies are okay and that is totally normal, right? So having a neutral point of view will be less harmful towards women and men, because when you start to learn how to accept themselves, you're already much more confident in your own skin, right? The likelihood of body neutrality will challenge the present day beauty, and it's much more likable because people will already have a stronger foundation in their perspective of body appreciation. They're not going to be easily swayed, and because they already have a strong belief that, oh, what I have and what kind of shape I have is already good enough, right? You don't need to compare yourself to the trends or whatever the social media is pushing, that curvy bodies are much more better, or skinny bodies are much more better because you're already comfortable in your own skin. Now, going on to my second argument, that this interest feminist movement is to avoid disintegration, right? The disintegration will happen in among the skinny woman and also the curvy woman, which only lessen the internal strength of the feminist movement, because instead of empowering women with all sizes, the challenge is that by body positivity, it advocates or opening up the retaliation coming from the skinny woman groups that fulfill the present day beauty. So what do we mean by how this can actually create fracture among the feminist movement? It kills the credibility of feminist movement, right? Because people in the gray area will see this fracture and contradicting conditions towards feminist values, where we can actually see that there are women attacking women, which is very counterproductive, right? We want people to actually support each other, women supporting women or women supporting all, right? So what will happen in body neutrality by shifting people's perspectives? Again, what I have said in the first argument, you're focusing on the self-appreciation and self-respect, which is applicable to every woman with all sizes. Again, this is much more likable in our side because this applies to all. It doesn't mean that it does not only happen to those who are skinny or only curvy or in between, right? This is applicable to everyone. And the foundation is where you start to self-respect yourself, and that is the most important foundation to accepting your own body. Therefore, it creates a much more inclusive empowerment for women and men, right? Because we're focusing on them to finally accept their body as it is, rather than only following the aesthetics of one trend or on one decade, right? So the provision of their body is something that they need to embrace, and the acceptance on our side is not contingent upon attacking the other types of bodies, because it's more about the internal affirmation. Yes, POI?
What's a specific female body function that could possibly be persuasive for women to support your movement on your side?
So for example, a lot of right now we have been talking about how there's different sizes, or how breasts are very different to one another, right? So the idea is that you do not need to follow a certain aesthetic. It doesn't need to be a specific size or shape. It's totally normal on what it looks, right? Because it is actually functioning really well. So we're not trying to force the idea that, oh, you have to fit into a specific aesthetic, because again, you understand that your own body is totally normal because it's already functioning really well. Once people explain that, oh, what you have, what kind of shape that you have is actually normal, you don't need to see all these models or these actresses that are showing up in the social media, how that it should look into a specific size. Again, because you're drilling the idea that you have to respect your own body, it's much more applicable, because again, a lot of different sizes, a lot of women has different sizes of breasts, right? So it's actually applicable to everyone, because you're reaffirming that, oh, I don't need to fit into a specific shape, and therefore it's much more aligned to the feminist movement. So, and this will actually help the grievances that we actually share in the social media, right? So this will actually be much more beneficial to all, including men and women. We are proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for the fine speech. To respond upon the case, I would like to call upon the Leader of Opposition. For Leader of Opposition, floor is yours. Don't forget to mention your POI preference.
All right. Hi, everyone. Am I both visible and audible?
Yes, you are both visible and audible.
Right. If you have POI, you can just drop them through the chat box. Starting the speech in 3, 2, 1. One big clarification for PM. We think that the movement of body positivity does not look like comparing and saying, oh, this one is better than the other. We think that the manifestation of this movement look like how, for example, they're actually educating a lot of people either through social media and other platforms, and letting people know that there are lots of body shapes and you need to accept. We don't necessarily think that this is this movement is a comparative and which one is better, because there is just, such a bad movement to begin with. And I believe that feminist movement in general do not want to do that, right? So we think that regardless of this movement, the idea of acceptance towards a body in terms of body neutrality, which is our goal in both sides, is a process. But we as OO believes that the idea of promoting body positivity and not rejecting is very, very important in the process of acceptance. And we're going to talk about this in the substantives. Several set up. Number one, we think that individuals' acceptance towards body really depends on the social contracts and how they interact every single day with a lot of things. So we think that the argumentation from Prime Minister talking about, oh, if you already accept your body, you're not going to be easily swayed. We think that this is not true, because right now you actually see a lot of, for example, very popular things on TV on how, for example, K-pop idols or a lot of actors, etc., have, most of them actually have these specific characteristics of, for example, they're being skinny and they have, for example, certain type of skin color, etc. That are being presented, which means that it is going to be very hard for you, because the things that you are watching is actually so far away from how you look like, for example. And also, we think that naturally, as human being, we actually do have these biological, attractions towards certain body shapes, and we do not deny that. But the idea of these promotions towards so many platforms actually perpetuates the idea of how the toxic beauty standard occurs, which means that you not promoting the idea of body positivity is actually harmful in the first place. But secondly, we think that the idea of this movement is actually very important, because this is actually the place where you can actually share and speak up comfortably, for example, about your body shapes, because it is being normalized. We actually think that when you reject these things, means that you actually reject the idea of so many people trying to, for example, tell you about accepting your body. We do agree that it is going to be very hard for you to accept, just because a lot of people on social media come up and speak up about, oh, you have to love your body. But we think that this is still important for you in order to, go against the toxic beauty standards. And that is actually the more important weighing compared to the acceptance of people, which we think is a long way journey ahead. You can love your body right now. You can stop loving your body the next day, but you can still have those long journey. But the most important thing of framing in OO is that we want to go against beauty standards, etc. So we think that the manifestation of this looks like, for example, now we are actually not rejecting the idea of so many influencers, for example, come up and talk about how their body look like, etc. On how, for example, on TVs. There are a lot of ads, and also a lot of cosmetics, etc. right now are promoting the idea of different makeup shades, or maybe like right now there are a lot of oversized and also like very, very skinny models, etc. They're just promoting more and more colors, and also more and more body. So first of all, we have a big question towards opposition side. How does the idea of rejection look like, right? Because we think that the idea of body positivity is actually the one that promotes the idea of less popular idea. We think that the idea of rejection that you are actually, telling a lot of people is going to be very, very harmful, because then you're actually telling people to accept when it is very hard for them to accept the moment that the feminist movement is not the one coming in. We think that it is very important for you to have a place to call out the moment, for example, there are certain harmful platform who actually still do the toxic beauty standards, and exactly this movement and the movement of body positivity and also the feminist movements are the one who call them out. So I'm going to explain why is this very important for the feminist movement. Number one, we think that the feminist movement should be the one who do this, because it is very hard for a lot of people to take a stance, especially if you are, being a part of community, right? And if you're actually doing it individually, it's going to be very hard for you to go, for example, against some toxic beauty standards, and it's going to be very harder to sell to people, a lot of women, for example, to have the idea of body neutrality in the first place. So if not feminist movement, then it is going to be very, very hard to a lot of people to actually talk about this and raise this issue, for example. But second of all, we think that this will diminish the idea of a lot of people who want to speak up, for example, who want to share about how they are feeling and how they interact, for example, with the way they accept their body in everyday life, for example. We believe that the idea of this body positivity being promoted is actually the platform where a lot of people are going to come in, and actually they can see, oh, actually it's not only me who does not, for example, feel uncomfortable right now. Oh, it's actually not my fault for not loving my body, but it is actually the fault of others. Now, a lot of people are actually being educated about this. And we think that this is actually because of the platform on the feminist, of what the feminist movement is actually doing. So we think that the comparative is the moment you reject this, you actually lose a lot of these benefits, and you actually, make it very harder for these people going through the journey of accepting their body, for example, because they no longer have number one, the movement that can take a stance for them, and secondly, the platform where they can also see a lot of other stories, and where they can also share, and they can also understand the journeys that they are going through. Under those things, we proud to oppose.
Thank you so much for your speech, LO. To respond to the case, I would like to call upon the Deputy Prime Minister. For Deputy Prime Minister, floor is yours. Don't forget to mention your POI preference, as well as set your own timer. Here.
Check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible and visible.
All right. Okay. So wait a minute. All right. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. There will be two clashes in this debate. Number one is that on the credibility of the feminist movement, there will be responses towards OO, and I will try to frame the case coming from the Prime Minister. Second of all is on the clash of the holistic acceptance, in which I will extend the case about how, under our side of the house, by respecting the body neutrality, we will construct a holistic acceptance to the people in the gray area, which is much better and much more inclusive. And that is what OG has championed in the debate earlier, which is about inclusivity. And this is something that is missing in the opening opposition earlier. Now, coming to the first clash on the credibility of the feminist movement, let's see what OO brought in the debate. So OO brought the debate about how there will be individual acceptance that depends on the social construct right now. 3 responses. Number one, in case of individual acceptance that is depending on the social construct, that is exactly why the problem with the social construct under their side of the house is that by using body positivity, when we're challenging the present day beauty standards as undesirable, what would most likely happen is that there is always oppositional view coming to attack the affirmation and attack the validation that you have made initially in the status quo. In this case, with body positivity, when you challenge the current beauty standards as undesirable, you indirectly kills the initial individual acceptance. For example, when you shamed the skinny bodies, like Nicki Minaj shaming skinny people in the Anaconda song, saying F them skinny bitches, for example, or in Meghan Trainor's song, All About That Bass, that shamed skinny people as a silicon Barbie doll, for example. That in itself, during the process, when you shame this beauty standard as undesirable, you kill the initial individual acceptance coming from the skinny bodies that have maintained their skinny bodies just to make sure that they feel beautiful. And so that in itself, that will only kill the individual acceptance. So we feel like under their side of the house, when you say that the individual acceptance depends on the social construct, that is exactly why we do not want this to happen. That is why by body neutrality, we want to play it safe in our side of the house. Instead of going radical, we're focusing more to eliminate the chances of oppositional views entering. Under our side, we say no. when you actually have a strong foundation by using the body neutrality, when you put a respect towards your body without attacking the other beauty standards, you will tend to appreciate others without feeling bad about yourself. And in our side of the house, this is the tipping point. You have the agency to gain the appreciation without any fear of external rejection, especially the likelihood isn't there when we do not attack the other body shapes or beauty standards in itself. So the way that you should take in the first response is that agency gives you the certainty on the benefit. Under their world, sadly, the agency is not there because the hindrance exists from the retaliation made by the other beauty standards due to them trying to regain the self-worth or the confidence once they are attacked or once they are challenged. In this case, when skinny women are attacked or shamed by Nicki Minaj or Meghan Trainor, for example, after the challenge from the curvy women, they will try to retaliate against the curvy women by shaming them back, thus diminishing the acceptance coming from the curvy women in the process. So instead of empowering one another, they are trying to kill the confidence of the other women that have the different body shapes. And we don't think that this is healthy process for the feminist movement. We want unity. We do not want this integration that is upheld by Siska earlier. So what has Siska proven to you in the first clash? On the issues of the fracture inside the feminist movement, we told you that when there is a retaliation made by the people that belong to the fulfilled present-day beauty standard, what would most likely happen is that this integration will happen. What is the likelihood? The likelihood is this. The challenge coming from the people that advocate for body positivity will only threaten the self-worth and the confidence of skinny women, for example. Thus, the way they regain their worth and confidence is by attacking the curvy women back, which is not only harming the credibility of the feminist movement, but also you are shifting the function of the feminist movement. Instead of empowering women in all sizes, you are attacking and trying to exclusifying that curvy women is the best or skinny women is the best, which is something that is unhealthy and not exclusive in our side of the house. So in the first class on the issue of the credibility of the feminist movement, we want to maintain the feminist movement's credibility that is embracing women in all sizes. That does not happen in OO. Now, coming to the second clash regarding holistic acceptance, but before that, yes, POI?
We think that the impact of rejecting is higher. So the question is, how harmful is the impact of calling out the skinny people compared to the impact of rejection that we have proposed?
Okay, so by our side of the house, the harm of shaming the people, we think that this is much more bigger because we cannot control the external rejection or the external shaming coming from the other side of the house. But the harm on the rejection in our side of the house, we think that this is much more better because we have that agency to control and agency to finally gain our self-worth without any external influences. And that is something that we want to champion on our side. Now, coming to the extension on the holistic acceptance to the people in the gray area, the status quo of with body positivity, certain people are putting themselves into a singular bubble. Either they insist that skinny body is desirable due to their massive engagement and subscription to Victoria's Secret or American Next Top Model that glorifies that cameras love starvation or skinny bodies are high fashion, or they insist that curvy bodies are desirable due to their massive engagement and subscription due to Nicki Minaj songs like Anaconda, Starships, or Meghan Trainor's various songs that glorifies curvy bodies and shaming. We think this is totally not okay. Why? Because the singular bubble will only force you to either accept the skinny bodies as the only one that is desirable or the curvy bodies as the one that is only desirable, and we think that this is something that we don't want to happen. What we want is the inclusivity. In our side of the house, by body neutrality, the acceptance is not contingent upon attacking the other types of bodies. Thus, the internal affirmation is gained and the external support is also gained. What is the likelihood of the external support? The likelihood is this. Women who have different body types will not feel attacked and threatened, and when they have the shared grievances of internal affirmation or the shared struggles of internal confidence, we think that this shared struggle becomes the triggering factor for them to support each other, which is totally healthy and much more better to create a unity inside the feminist movement. So CO questions, the ideal function in our side of the house. As long as you engage to the healthy lifestyle and seeks the most comfortable way in treating your body that is perpetuated in the status quo, for example, by Clara Tan, who is a body neutrality advocate, a former Asian Next Top Model contestant, she believed that the flaw in ourselves needs to be embraced without shaming the other body types, because you are still functioning well as a healthy woman, and that's the fulfilling empowerment that's totally relatable and totally acceptable and tolerable. Therefore, let's fight for body neutrality.
Thank you so much for the fine speech. To respond the case, I would like to call upon the Deputy Leader of Opposition. For Deputy Leader of Opposition, don't forget to mention your POI preference. For DLO, here.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. POI through chat ya. Probably except one from closing. So starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think realization and acceptance through body neutrality could only exist to people who actually already have a certain self-belief, and they're already confident enough to not follow the body standard or the existing beauty standard exists in the current status quo. If we're talking about this kind of individual on who already accept themselves and confidence enough, I don't think there is no clear delta in this debate, because what we should be debating upon is what individuals who are vulnerable enough, who are impacted that much through this kind of beauty standard that exists in the status quo, who do not feel confident enough to be themselves exactly because of the beauty standard that is so toxic in the current status quo. Therefore, I think that realization and acceptance could only exist when the beauty standard has already changed exactly because it's very hard for them to gain confidence and to gain traction so that they can be themselves for this kind of vulnerable individuals. If they want to talk about external support, I don't think it will not exist anyway inside government, exactly because most people in the status quo are still stuck on an echo chamber of existing beauty standard. They need to explain why a lot of people will be able to step out of this echo chamber so that they can strengthen each other up and not be and grow the confidence together, right? I'm gonna do two things in my speech. Number one, I'm gonna define what is the body positivity and what is the clear delta in this debate. Secondly, I'm gonna compare which one is more feasible, comparing the worst case scenario and why we win under side opening opposition. First thing first, what do we mean by body positivity under side opening opposition, right? We actually want individuals to love themselves. Like if you want to change, it is okay, but you do not have to force yourself and follow society view to begin with, right? For example, people can go on diet. It looks like how when you lose small weight, it's already okay. If you do not have to force yourself to the extreme diet and whatnot, right? I think the delta is that we try to erase the beauty standard in status quo compared to proposition where they appreciate their body only to an internal realization that is pretty much a privilege that is not existent towards a lot of people in current status quo. If they only want to advocate for internal realization, it means that the body acceptance under your side are pretty much going to be only accessible to privileged individuals. It's going to not be holistic like what DPM tried to champion under their side of the house, right? Exactly because individuals who can access internal realization are only privileged individuals who have confidence, right? The only way for us to be holistic is when we change the beauty standard as a whole. I'm gonna explain how on my second argument, right? Secondly, I'm gonna compare directly, right? How the biggest harm they try to pose it is that we're gonna harm the people who fulfill beauty standard in the current status quo. I think it is very much untrue because our campaign does not directly work that way. We do not directly attack people who are skinny, for example, who fulfill the beauty standard, because we're still going to say that everybody is accepted and you need to appreciate your body, no matter what the shape are, no matter what the size are and whatnot. If we said feminist movement, we will not necessarily need to leave the skinny individuals exactly because both can go hand in hand, right? But I think we need to be realistic in this case, where a lot of people put their happiness on external beauty standard, especially people who have, for example, low self-worth, who actually are not very, very confident and whatnot. In most instances, this confidence something is not accessible and it's a privilege for these individuals. Like people who just could not change because of their nature and characteristic. For example, who have genes that is nearly impossible to change because who are unable to lose weight. And for example, right? I think this kind of individuals are exactly the most vulnerable actors that we need to protect under side opening opposition, because body neutrality is not visible to them due to beauty standard. They are deeply rooted into society, right? Like how no matter what, no matter how confident they are, I think when they meet their family, for example, when they meet their friends, they will still be shamed by people who still do not support this kind of body neutrality to begin with. Therefore, the only way for us to make this individual feel confident enough to feel themselves getting a sufficient support from the feminist movement is when we change the beauty standard to body positivity, right? I think even if some individual can appreciate their body function and apply body neutrality for example, in their best case scenario, that some individual can accept it, it becomes a pressure and justification for other people to force other individuals who do not fit to the beauty standard, saying that, oh, even that women who do not fulfill beauty standard can accept themselves. Then it becomes a justification for you to put an unrealistic expectation, because I know that every individual have different resistance towards stress and have different resistance towards pressure, right? But then this kind of individual who are going to be forced anyway under some proposition is going to live a very, very miserable life, exactly because they are not ready to face to be proud of themselves yet, because of the constant discrimination, constant judgment from society. But so everyone around them, like the feminist movement, keeps saying that, oh, even your friends can accept their body. I think accepting your body is a part of process that you cannot force to anyone. Therefore, the only valid way to do it is when you create a comfortable environment, right? Through the body positivity, through changing society to accept like all beauty standard and distinguish the beauty standard that exists in the current status quo. I think at best, at the worst case scenario, it becomes a deadlock under both sides of the house. On that proposition, the woman who doesn't fulfill beauty standard is never gonna accept their body because of the massive beauty standard that exists because the insufficient confidence and whatnot. On opposition, people who fulfill beauty standard now are attacked by feminists on our worst case scenario. I think let's directly weigh the vulnerability of these individuals. I think people who actually fulfill the existing beauty standard in the status quo actually have more security net. It is like how, for example, they have been pretty much benefited by the fact that they fulfill beauty standard. For example, it's easier for them to get a job. It's easier for them to find a partner and whatnot. So they have more security in the current status quo, and they have certain amount of privilege because of the beauty that they own. But secondly, it is also easier for them to find a support system because everyone still follow this kind of beauty standard. Comparatively, the acceptance to individuals who are not confident enough are extremely important because they do not have any safety net at all, ladies and gentlemen. Realize how they do not even they're not even confident enough to be themselves and whatnot. So it's going to be very hard for them to gain any kind of support system. Therefore, the most important thing in this debate is to create a comfortable environment for this individual. Even if we do not suddenly we are not able to change the society as a whole and to deconstruct the beauty standard that is in the current status quo, at least we can create a safe space inside the feminist movement, for example, right? In which these individuals can feel confident enough, like how the body positivity narrative already exists inside the feminist movement in of itself. Compared to their side, what I think that in terms of body neutrality, it is something that's a lot harder for you to accept because realistically speaking, people are individuals who lack self-confidence, try to find their happiness and try to find their confidence through through external factors. And that's the only way for them to get happiness, right? That is exactly why feminists often need to accommodate this compared to their side trying to change their point of view as a whole. Sometimes much harder for us to do, but in the process, you end up forcing all individuals to be able to be proud of themselves, whereas the process that you could not fast forward just like that. So I think at the end of the day, the goal of feminist movement, even if we could not change the society as a whole, at least we create a safe space for this individual where the feminist movement itself becomes a place where they're comfortable and they're not even forcing these individuals to accept themselves when they are not ready. Because of that reason, we're very proud to oppose.
Thank you very much for your speech. To open the closing bench, I would like to call upon the member of government. For a member of government, floor is yours. Don't forget to mention your POI preference. Here.
All right, thank you. Am I clearly audible and visible?
Yes, you are visible and audible.
All right, thank you very much. If you guys want a POI, please just unmute yourself. We'll be taking one in between minutes 4 or 5, ideally from opening for cross-bench engagement. But yeah, if not otherwise, gladly taking it from closing as well. Starting in 3, 2, 1. I think the debate is desperately in need of context on what the feminist movement does and what their action entail. I think because of this, the opening debate specifically has largely felt like a motion of this house prefers body positivity instead of body neutrality, right? I think this is a very important thing to contextualize, panel, because when the feminist movement is a key actor to analyze, it doesn't mean that we directly act as them, but it means that there is a burden to prove why they're at least going to benefit from it. This is what CG does. Note that the feminist movement always has an inherent goal to empower women and gain followers. I think it's still a social movement it is a social movement to that extent because of that. But at the same time, noting that it means that their action matter to that extent to people inside of the social movement, people who actively look to the social movement for safety, etc. But B, most likely it also influences the people outside of that social movement, mainly the swing voters, but I think to even some extent conservatives who directly harm the people that the social movement protect in the first place, right? I think no matter what, the framing of the debate is simple, and I think closing should abide by this principle. Feminist movement's action has one universal goal. We don't just want to help women internalize their values and accept themselves, but we want people outside of the movement to be accepting of our movement in the very first place, right? To the point where we need a functioning middle ground to create discourse. We need a functioning middle ground so that they actively stop shaming people within the feminist movement, etc. CG will expand the debate and prove how neutrality is comparatively a much more strategic move for the feminist movement. I think this is not only going to break the deadlock on which side helps people who are insecure about their bodies, but we are also going to prove why rejecting body positivity as the feminist movement then helps the entire spectrum of people that actually, need the feminist movement and status quo, right? Real quick, I think we need to eliminate the case of opening opposition in this debate. Why? Because they fundamentally only talk about people who are essentially insecure about their bodies without really expanding it and engaging into any burden that they really should be talking about how they operate as a social movement, right? If then DLO tries to extend this by saying that people who fit in the beauty standard therefore like have a safety net to the point where they have it easy in their life, I think body neutrality fundamentally eliminates the need to have that safety net in the very first place, right, panel? So I think you can dismiss that argument coming from opening opposition. We need to talk about this debate in a much larger spectrum. Closing opposition needs to abide by this. Otherwise, they're not engaging either. Two contribution coming from CG, all rebuttals integrated within the extensions, right? Firstly, about how we eventually are going to be able to empower women, and then secondly, how we actually help the feminist movement gain followers as well, right? Let's talk about women empowerment, though. I think opening government only bring this to the extent that this exists to help the credibility of the feminist movement, but I think we should really go beyond that, right? To the point where people exactly look to the feminist movement for safety. I think then closing opposition might tell us that you essentially show hate or showing hatred towards Eurocentric beauty standard becomes like the function of empowerment. Exactly, we flip this by saying that it's far more empowering for you to then not attach your self-worth to your body in the first place, right? We question why that becomes an inherent need in the debate in the first place. If CEO wants to come into the debate and then tell us, for example, why you should eventually stop that our impact means that you stop valuing yourself, I think we think no, you always need self-value. The delta is that you find something else to attach it to. CEO's burden is then to prove why you need to attach self-worth to the way your body looks, right? What's the likelihood of this impact? I think simple. People are going to fundamentally feel empowered because personality is something that is three things. One, unique to them as individuals. Two, it is something inherent within yourself. And three, it is also measurable by the actions that you do instead of something that is inherently subjective and as subjective as beauty standard, right? Meaning it's something that you can value and also feel good about, knowing that you're, for example, a good person that has done A, B, C, D to prove it to yourself, right? So I think what of people who then, for example, feel insecure about your bodies, this directly engages to opening opposition. I think simple, we tackle the root cause of the problem, right? We make sure that people don't feel bad about their bodies because the fundamental function of your body in the very first place is fulfilled. But more importantly, if you then feel insecure about your body, if you then hate your body to that extent, I think in that case, we prove to you why your body is something that you should not need to hate, because exactly you are much more than what your body is, right? It means that you are a good person irrespective of the way you look. It means that you value yourself, not the way you look. It means that you stop looking at the mirror in the very first place instead of you need to look in the mirror and tell yourself that you are beautiful no matter what. Before I prove my second contribution about how this is going to help the feminist movement, any POIs, ideally opening. 3, 2, 1. Okay, moving on. Second contribution about why this is eventually going to help feminist movement gain followers in the very first place, right? The fact that you do this while challenging norms and beauty standard makes it fundamentally difficult, right? I think opening government only really prove to you like one layer of likelihood insofar as it means that people are directly going to like question this too much. But I think two layers to this, why we're going to expand this from opening government. One, about how beauty standards is inherently an ingrained mindset within people. I think then the change itself is fundamentally difficult to many layers of society, right? At best, I think we have to be engaging to that extent. I think it's going to be divisive instead of creating a neutral middle ground. OG, stop here. We're going to prove why it's harmful. This is directly harmful to the feminist movement, because to create real change, to get swing voters, to create discourse, which is what feminist movement fundamentally wants to do, I think then that middle ground has to exist. This becomes the prerequisite to OG's analysis to how integration will happen. But secondly, extending on this impact, I think beauty standards vary from place to place, right? This means that the agenda of the feminist movement in the very first place stops becoming something that is inherently unified, but instead needs to be split into sub-movements trying to create different extents of the exact same thing, right? Meaning you localize the feminist movement instead of it being something that is universal or inherent. This is exactly the reason why conservative and vindictive people in developing countries believe that, oh, feminism is a Western agenda and therefore you don't need to look towards it, because exactly we are Eastern people who have different Eastern values, right? We extend this impact to the people who are vulnerable and need the impact of the feminist movement in the very first place, right? Because exactly, irrespective of the way your body looks like, people need the feminist movement to have that own layer of safety net, right? We have that symmetrical level of impact as opening opposition, but the delta is simple. We extend it to the amount of people that are in developing countries who have people actively telling you that you don't need to go to the feminist movement, or that the feminist movement is something that you do like that is wrong or something like that. We prove to you why these people will feel safer, exactly because they feel they feel secure within their own bodies. But more importantly, we also prove to you how there is discourse that's going to be able to manifest to that extent, right? I think opening opposition is automatically out because they're not engaging, but we have stolen opening government's case. Very, very proud to propose.
Thank you very much for your speech. To respond on the case, I would like to call upon member of opposition. For member of opposition, floor is yours. Don't forget to mention your POI preference.
All right, thank you. I hope I'm audible. For POI preference, you can just do it through chat. Yeah, I'll take it from either opening or closing. Probably ideal take it close around 5. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So quickly just responding to CG, their new extension wants to talk about how do you gain followers, but what they explain is that you need middle ground. But the middle ground you set in closing government is going to be blind with what women face and their struggles. Because on their side, not only does society tell women that they're not attractive, they're not fulfilling beauty standards, the feminists themselves tell you, don't feel beautiful. And that the discourse of the outcome of this discourse is not properly weighed. Because on our side, is it like we're going to make feminists singular and only talk about body positivity? We're also going to talk about women's rights. We're also going to talk about how women are incredibly intelligent, etc. So we say it's not going to be a singular thing that's going to like completely disrupt the movement. How do we enter the debate over OO? First, their main conclusion talks about how toxic beauty standards need to be fought against. But OG and CG already explained that body neutrality still fights against those exact same standards. What OO misses is something that CG pointed out, which is why do you have to go to the level of positivity and feeling incredibly beautiful? So this is missing the response to government's case of accepting yourself without looking at your external features. Second of all, OO only accepted that body positivity is either popular being skinny or popular being curvy, just like OG said. But CO is the one that's going to fully reject this premise. We say body positivity, just like the info slide says, is accepting all bodies, regardless of size, shape, skin tone, gender, and physical abilities. So there are songs, we admit, that promote being curvy, but there's endless alternative views as well, such as movies that employ skinny actresses, or we're also promoting things like accepting women who look muscular and quote unquote look like a man based on old standards, and we want to promote them as beautiful. Sometimes in the process, there will be prioritization of trends, but let's engage with that. One, the harm on our side that Gov points out. Shaming in the beauty standard, that are songs that are anti-skinny, or CG tries to make it wider and say, on your side, you at least feel your body is always happy and not just protecting skinny women. Well, but the problem is on government. They give wholesale rejection to women who say, I feel beautiful. So on our side, yes, there's some clashing, but on government, the feminist movement literally hates all women who call themselves beautiful, because as the motion says, you have to reject body positivity. So when women call themselves beautiful, the feminist movement have to actively tell them, that's not our strategy, stop doing that. More specifically on Gov, they want to talk about function. So curvy women who are not fulfilling their best function and are not lowering their body fat to fulfill that function to the highest level will still be shamed anyway. So what's the outcome? And then RPO asks, what is the body function that we're actually talking about? OG only says respecting body. CG doesn't engage with this. So we say, one, there's still the possibility of this being hijacked by conservatives to say, look, women admit that it's all about their function. So they just want to be baby factories and use their exclusive organs to give birth, which is incredibly demeaning. And this responds to CG as well, since it's only going to be making a tokenistic approach only towards women who are conservative. But what's the other alternative to be engaging with them? What if they talk about body functions that are generic, just like your heart and your lungs? But this is harmfully missing the nuance of what the problems women face in the status quo, and this is going to be the CO extension. We say body positivity as a movement is fulfilling the principle of redemption, proportionality, and compensation that women should do. So when we question what's the specific female body function, they set a very dismissive goal towards the problems women have faced. Because we say what CO has to champion is we want to reclaim the idea of beauty, something that has historically been oppressive. So when OG talks about this is creating forced affirmation on our side, we want that because women face forced hate and discrimination in the status quo. So it's only fair to give back those women the idea of feeling beauty, something they have been robbed from the very beginning. OO says they're not confident enough, but CO is the one that's actually going to tell you who and how they face it. This is needed for women that are not traditionally beautiful like all those Hollywood actresses. This is necessary for women in the minority group who are not white and who cannot fulfill the Western standards. This is necessary for the women who have body fats above what's considered beautiful. And the outcome of this, if you cannot fulfill those beauty standards, are fourfold. One, the men who you interact with are incredibly limited or incredibly dismissive. Two, media and TV shows casting more attractive people, making you internally feel very, very demeaned. Third, products and advertisements and corporations actively making you feel unattractive, so you feel coerced to buy their products. And four, to a certain extent, even the work or the job that you can access is limited if you're not beautiful enough. This means that the inability to feel beautiful and be accepted as beautiful affects your social life, your internal psyche and how you perceive yourself, and to some extent, the jobs and the chances you have. CJ then questions, why does the value need to be on this level? Exactly, because it needs to be on the body positivity level, because either one, it helps women integrate in society and be seen as beautiful because it's inevitable that beauty is going to be necessary in society, or women of all shapes and sizes to be appreciated in society and not face as much discrimination or hate. If not to that extent, at least internally, you help women feel better about themselves and compensate for the mental damages they receive from society and those same beauty standards. OO says that acceptance on government is tough and they have it on their side, but it's not clear what their stance is because the process of acceptance is something that government can also get. CO is the one that's bold, saying that acceptance could be achieved on government as well. We were willing to give them that, but it's a hollow acceptance and not able to address the issues that women actually face. How do we actually mechanize this? One, we're going to be engaging with Gov. We already told you in the clarification, body positivity makes beauty accessible. It's going to be widening the definition, not narrowing it down. So when OG says we're not going to be swayed by trends, some promote curvy, some promote skinny. Yes, some of them promote one or the other, but there's a lot of variety. So it's a huge market and it has been successful. Back in the day, you need to be a -5 size dress woman to be attractive, but now Victoria's Secret themselves have plus size models. Lizzo has become more widely accepted as beautiful, and this isn't to say the skinny representation is gone. We have plenty of options like Taylor Swift and other modeling agencies that employ skinny women. So when OG says, oh, their benefit is the harm is disintegration between the skinny and the fat community. The process of rejection on government is you also fracture the feminist movement for those who want to feel pretty and feel beautiful. I give you 3 types of women and 4 experiences that women face that will not accept being boiled down to just body functions. So when OG says they benefit everyone, that's a lie, because we say women who want to feel beautiful are actively discriminated on their side. The weighing for our case is 1, the actor of the feminist movement, the one most responsible towards the most aware of women's suffering as the ones that are literally experiencing on a daily, even hourly basis, need to do this. Second, the vulnerability of victims of beauty standard. And thirdly, CO on an argument-wise is the one that flips government's harm analysis because it's worse on their side, rejecting women who do feel the need to feel beautiful because they were victims of those same standards. To compensate these women, vote for CO.
Thank you very much for your speech. To close the government bench, I would like to call upon the government whip. For a government whip, floor is yours. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Wait. Setting up my timer. Beauty standard is not the only example of oppression that women have already experienced in status quo coming from the patriarchy and conservatism. There are a lot of ways for women to show, for example, the misery of them, in order for them, for example, getting more acceptance from the conservative. The problems right now, when we are talking about the beauty standard, are where we cannot create a middle ground for every people because we cannot give the equal value for every kind of beauty that exists. And the status quo shows to you that when there is no any equal value that we can give for every woman, it means there will be a conflict from one woman to another for what kind of thing that is considered as beautiful and not beautiful, for example, because even if you are talking about challenging the beauty standard will keep from happening and it will not changes. Shows to you that at the end of the day, there will be, for example, divisive kind of people from one place to another, showing what kind of thing that we consider as beautiful and not beautiful. This kind of divisive is not the interest of the feminism itself. We want this to be eradicated because we want a more unified movement at the end of the day in order to attract the conservatism. But even if you want to talk about, we will be more do not accepted by the conservative, but I think no, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of type of oppression that we have got, for example, in the workplace, whatnot, everything kind of all alternative, for example, to show the misery of women can still be accessible in the house. It is not that way. Two things that I'm going to bring in this debate. First of all, about why it is okay to eliminate the value of body appearance as a personal self-worth. This will be engaging to the CEO especially, and also, assertion coming from opening opposition. But second of all, talking about the weighing as to why this is the most important thing in order for us to getting more acceptance, because more acceptance from people, more safe place for women, more more unified movement that will exist on the outside the house. First of all, talking about why it is okay to eliminate the value of body appearance as a personal self-worth. I think this has been talked by my member before, because at the end of the day, there's no a same value from one people to another, making people, for example, cannot feel the same value one to another. And since the notion is impossible to give value to every kind of body, like, for example, face with acne, freckles, whatnot, women in certain community might not be able to oppose the standard at the end of the day, since, for example, this is the only value that you can get, except from seeing from their identity that they get from their characteristic, whatnot. But second of all, the notion of healthy body have always been aligned with the body appearance and the beauty standard that exists in the status quo. That when you have abs or when you have more skinny, or for example, you are seen for being fit or healthy, for example. Meanwhile, this is not always been the case. Even a more fatty people are actually more healthy, actually. But since, for example, this physical appearance is the one that can be seen outside, for example, make people give people a sense of urgency to getting more validity from every people, that in order for every people to accept me, for example, I have to seems healthy, for example, from the physical appearance, instead of, for example, really taking care of the health of mental health and physical health that I have, for example, regardless of the beauty appearance that exists outside the house. The impact is people do not directly judge you by your appearance outside the house or assume you have from that kind of thing. But third of all, comparatively, we see our value from the identity, from the good deeds that you have done. For example, the standard of what is good and what is bad are relatively same from one people to another, comparatively from the standard of beauty. So it doesn't have to be a heroic action that you have done to show you that you have done a good deeds. For example, giving more charity or being more friendly towards every people can be the identity that you show to every people that you are a good people, instead of showing that I am fit, I am healthy, by showing the fit physical appearance that it shows. But even if you try to say that, oh, we try to engage in this by saying that every kind of appearance is healthy, but I don't think so, because at the end of the day, what it's called as a beauty and healthy are actually differentiate from one place to another. Comparatively, we have more acceptance because, for example, we are talking about the conservative body positivity, for example, currently work under a shape of advertisement where they're mocking the majority. For example, the notion of body positivity that exists in the status quo are actually shaped by the minority people, like, for example, Black people are, for example, from the LGBT and queer people idea that exist in the status quo. They usually shows hatred, for example, towards the majority by showing that, oh, all these beauty standards that exist in the status quo are all your fault at the end of the day. This is the biggest problem, because in order for us to getting more conservative acceptance, we need them to accept our stances. But when we have this kind of radical appearance outside by showing the identity of feminists, for example, it shows that we do not have the intention to cooperate with them, make them less likely want to engage with us. The moment we get less acceptance from the conservative, it is the moment, for example, there will be less safety net, for example, for every woman, especially the women who trap in the community, who, for example, have this kind of beauty. It is a certain kind of beauty standard. Sure, Shio.
You say on our side we can't give everyone the feeling of beauty. Well, in your side, whenever anybody says they're beautiful, you actively reject it, as the motion says, and tell them they're either toxic or not true feminists. That's even more harmful.
Yeah, the notion of beautiful on the other side of the house are actually seen when you are fit, when you are sexy, whatnot. On the other side of the house, even if you are fit, it doesn't mean that you are actually beautiful. When it is okay, because when you are fit, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are actually healthy mentally and physically. For example, you have a really, really strict diet, for example, to the point that you have a bad physical appearance, for example, mental health, for example, shows to you that this is not the interest of women, for example, because the strict standard that still exists. Comparatively, on the other side of the house, I think it is better because you do not see the beauty from the appearance. Maybe the validity will be less like the other side of the house, but it forces women to not look for the validity coming from external forces, for example, because the validity can only come, for example, from the goodness that you have done when you know that you have done good deeds, when you know that you have helped a lot of people, when you know that you have keeping your health, for example, regardless if you are keep being fatty, whatnot. Shows to you why it is the way in this debate, which one that can be accepted more and which one that can make women more comfortable. Because at the end of the day, even if you are engaging with the current status quo in terms of beauty standard, there will be a differential opinion one to each other. Outside the house, there's no such things. You do not see women in such matters. Everyone is equal in terms of beauty, physical appearance, but they are beauty from the goodness that they have done. Proud to propose.
Thank you very much for your speech. To close the whole debate, I would like to call upon Opposition Whip. For Opposition Whip, floor is yours. Here.
But before that, can I go to the bathroom really quick, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. Wait. Okay. Okay, I'll set my timer. POI. I'll take one from opening, but if closing want to give any POI, probably I'll take one too. Gender pronoun seeker. Yeah. POI preference through Ryzen or just chat in the chat box. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1, go. Panels and John, I think government has failed to understand the motion and not trying to engage in the status quo that Kak Batara has given in this speech. Exactly when our status quo still fulfilled with a lot of beauty standard that is toxic, feminist movement needed to, give them the safety net of body positivity to counterbalance all of the things that has, oppressed the woman in ages, right? In our side of the house, it's going to be better because we are going to love all of the body type. They are claiming to you that you're in your side of the house, it's going to be when you only fit and sexy, but read the context side board, it's still telling to you that it's going to be all of the type and of the beauty standard and so on and so forth. The thing is that is very important that has been bring by Kak Batara. Kak Batara told you, right? The fulfillment and the needed to feel beautiful is very important. Exactly when woman has been told that they are not beautiful in ages, it is something that is we need to fulfill, right? To show you that, oh, your body is so positive, you're still beautiful, even if you're like in a comment state, you're more big or you're more like curvy and so on and so forth. It is something that, you know, to validate your emotion, to validate your trauma and so on and so forth. It is something that's very important and only can be achieved in opposition side of the house. But secondly, they claiming to you that they are going to, I mean, like CG claimed to you, it's going to help the feminists to gain followers, become in the middle. I don't see why it is something that can be achievable in this side of the house. When you banish the body positivity, they are not going to tell you and both to you what actively reject means. We have told and we have sensed, but they're not engaging at all. Actively reject means that they are going to tell and stop all of people that feeling beautiful or maybe post that they are beautiful, and you know, feminists will say that, oh, you're not feminist enough and so on and so forth. That is something that is important, because say that, you know, in a sense that you have to overcome something that in your body type that you feel beautiful and you want to, when you validate it and post it, is something that is okay, because it is your counterbalance in the status quo, and it's it is in interest of the feminist movement. Several respond to what CG is doing in this debate. They came into you that, oh, this is going to empower women. I don't see why it's going to empower women at all, because they will force you to accept whatever you are, but we still seeking for the beauty. They are going to punish the definition of beauty and how people will feel beautiful, right? I don't see why it's going to empower women. I think as a woman, I need to have the fulfillment, whether if I'm not fitting a beauty standard, whether it's American or Korean and so on and so forth, they're very diverse, I still have the body positivity. If they are challenged about empower women, the side that has come in a sense that proving to you it's only CEO. So CG case about empower women cannot buy and can apply in this debate. But let's talk about how Kak Batara has beautifully explained how we are going to attract more followers in here. Exactly when we became the safety net that tells to you there is something that it is okay and so on and so forth. Of course, it will attract a lot of people. It will attract all of corporation and so on and so forth, because notice how in the status quo is more progressive. A lot of corporation try to make products not only in a sense of condition for white people only, but it's called also you know, for the product of Black people and the Black community. If you are saying that, you know, in the chance of advertisement to gain more followers in a feminist, it only can be accessible in our side of the house, because the product of all of the beauty type will be only accessible and will be prerequisite only when we, you know, promote body positivity. It is how we are going to win. But second thing, the double standard of how misogynist, like the double standard. Let's talk how men have a lot of options to call themselves they are beautiful or they are fulfilling. But in our side of the heart, it is very confusing, because women has always thought, like, you know, it's very confusing whether you have to like be Kylie Jenner, for example, or you have to be Won from Ivy, right? When you have this in our side of the house, we are going widening the perspective of beautiful. We are going to be widening at how you can call yourself beautiful. When you like becoming like how Taylor's body type or just Kylie Jenner body type and so on and so forth, you have the validation and you have the one that telling to you that your body type is valid. If you're coming in a sense to attract more people or to attract more women, we believe that it's only prerequisite and closing opposition. But before that, any POI kah? 1, 2,
Yeah, from
3.
closing.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So I think the question from my speech still largely stands. Why then do you have to attach your self-value to your body in the first place?
Because you need the validation. I think inherently when you like attach your body, you need the validation. It is something that is common, because you connect to your body and you feel the emotion, and you know, like you want to people validate and telling that you're beautiful is something that's inherently like women or people needed in the very first place, right? But yeah, second thing, how in active level I mean, like CEO is only the one that expand the definition of the beauty, but the GOV or especially OG has not come in a sense why feminist movement need to do this. They're saying to you that, oh, it will be a clashing between the beauty standard, whether, you know, skinny will be win or the curvy will be win of one dominate beauty standard and so on and so forth. I would question though, even if there is some cases where people shame each other, why is it something that is bad? Just think that it is something in a chance of how they are feeling it or just, you know, oppress their emotion and so on and so forth. Because even if this kind of thing, in a very, very worst case where people like trying to shame each other, we still see that the feminist is going to the one that going to stand and help to finish these clashes, to tell them that all of the body type, all of those type in your within your body is something that's beautiful. So in a sense, where body positivity gone, where those kind of clashes, where Nicki Minaj making sound shaming skinny people, or how also Meghan Trainor scamming skinny people, who are going to tell that skinny people going to be okay because body positivity is gone, because like all of those body type will be gone forever. This is why government case, all of government case has been taken down in this level, because exactly they are not trying to engage in going to build to you. I think I'm going to explain how actively reject mean, because they're not explaining to you, right? Actively reject means they are going to like making thoughts, being bold that they don't need body positivity. They are going to actively tell women who must picture that it is something that is toxic. But I can see that is something that is questioned very bad as a feminist movement. Exactly when they, like press other people who have a body positivity or not trying to, promote body positivity, the validation of women that feel insecure, the validation of women that not feeling in those kind of beauty standard will be gone forever. And I think, instead of attracting followers and so on and so forth in a feminist movement, and the interests and the goals of feminist movement will be gone. That's why here, causing opposition already win in those clashes, right? But second thing, why we are winning on the OO? I think OO doesn't really engage on the feminist movement. This is after analyze. They don't analyze why it is in line with the interest. They just come into you and bunch you are giving like, oh, we have the delta and how to love ourselves, and we have the safety net. But I don't see why it's going to be, inherently against with the goals of feminists. Very proud to oppose. Thank you. Oh my God. Time.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your speech. So that is the end of today's exhibition. All of you can virtually shake hands. And yeah, that's it. Okay, thank you so much, everyone.